The human stepped onto the cold metallic surface of the alien planet with a calm, steady pace. His boots clicked against the ground, the sound sharp in the silence of the night. The air was thin, but not dangerous. Strange plants glowed faintly, their colors shifting from violet to green in slow, hypnotic waves. The sky was dark, and two moons hung low, casting pale light across the barren landscape. He looked at the structure ahead, a massive facility that stretched high into the air. Its walls were smooth and dark, with patterns that seemed to shift when he stared too long. Alien symbols were etched across the entrance, and faint lights pulsed from the windows. Security drones hovered silently near the perimeter, their metallic eyes scanning the area in steady arcs. The human adjusted his backpack and smiled faintly. He had been to more dangerous places than this. He had seen the worst planets the galaxy had to offer, faced predators and storms that could kill a less clever being in minutes. And yet here he was, walking toward this alien fortress as if it were nothing more than a museum he planned to explore. "This is going to be easy," he muttered to himself, checking the small device strapped to his wrist. It was a scanner of his own design, capable of detecting energy patterns, life forms, and even weak structural points in walls. He tapped it lightly, and a holographic display appeared, showing the positions of the drones and the energy shields around the facility. The human crouched behind a glowing bush. He watched the drones move in their predictable patterns. 1, then 2, then 3, and back to the first. Timing was everything. With careful steps, he began moving forward, each footstep deliberate and silent. As he approached the main gate, a slight hum filled the air. He froze. The sound was mechanical, but also organic, like metal moving with intelligence. His fingers brushed the edge of the gate, feeling the vibrations travel up his arm. The human smiled. "It's all right. Just a machine. Nothing more." He pressed a small device against the wall, and a faint click echoed. A hidden panel slid open. He slipped inside without a sound. The interior was dimly lit, the walls lined with strange tubes and panels filled with alien writing. The air was cold and smelled faintly metallic. He walked forward, scanning the room with his device. Nothing moved, no sign of life. Just a faint hum from the equipment. The human paused at a hallway that split in two directions. To his left, the corridor led toward a series of smaller rooms. To his right, a larger chamber hummed with energy. He chose the right path, curiosity pushing him forward. Every step echoed softly, but it did not seem to alert anyone or anything as he entered the chamber. He saw tanks of all sizes lining the walls. Inside each tank floated creatures unlike anything he had ever seen. Some had long flowing fins that glowed with internal light. Others had multiple eyes, blinking independently. A few seemed almost invisible, their shapes only visible when they moved or shifted water inside their tanks. The human crouched beside the first tank. He smiled, leaning closer to the glass. "Pet," he whispered, almost amused. It was small and delicate, floating gently in the liquid. He reached out, placing a gloved finger against the tank. The creature's eyes followed him. It tilted its head, curious, nothing aggressive. "Too easy," he muttered. He moved along the tanks, scanning each one. Most were small, seemingly harmless. They twitched or floated lazily, responding to his presence with simple movements. He reached for his device, scanning the energy patterns, or read his normal life signatures. Nothing hostile, nothing dangerous. He laughed quietly to himself. Thought they might have something tougher. Looks like they just want to be looked at. He tapped the device, recording the readings for later. Then, in the corner of his eye, he noticed something different. A larger tank, set apart from the others. Its glass was thicker, and the liquid inside was darker. The human's curiosity piqued. He walked closer, noting the security around it. Small sensors hovered above the tank, scanning the air. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the panels nearby. He crouched and examined the glass. Inside, a creature moved slowly. It had long limbs, almost too many to count at first glance. Its eyes reflected the dim light, multiple points of intelligence staring back at him. It didn't float or swim like the others. Instead, it seemed to observe, as if it knew him before he even stepped close. The human leaned forward, ignoring the slight chill that ran down his spine. "Another pet," he muttered, but this time his voice lacked certainty. He tapped his scanner lightly. The device beeped in rapid, irregular patterns. "Odd," he whispered, frowning. The life readings were inconsistent, almost like they were trying to confuse the scanner. He stepped back and looked closer. The creature moved in subtle, precise ways, responding to him without touching anything. Its multiple eyes seemed aware, almost calculating. He shook his head. "Still fine, just smart. Nothing dangerous." He reached out again, carefully placing a finger near the glass. For a brief moment, it stared directly at him. Then, it moved with impossible speed, circling the tank in a blur. The human stepped back sharply, heart racing. His confidence wavered, but only slightly. "Okay, that was fast," he muttered, adjusting his gloves. "Probably reflexes, still manageable." He scanned the rest of the room quickly. All the other tanks held creatures that seemed harmless. This one, though, was different. Bigger, faster, smarter. His mind raced, analyzing possibilities. Could it be engineered? Could it be a predator disguised as a harmless pet? For the first time, he felt that twinge of real caution. Not fear, not yet, just awareness. He had faced dangers before, but this was unfamiliar. Alien science, unknown creatures, intelligence far beyond the expected. The human stepped back, straightening up. He adjusted his backpack, feeling the weight of his tools. "All right," he said quietly. "Stay calm. Observe. Don't panic." His voice echoed softly in the chamber, mingling with the hum of the machines. He moved to the next hallway, ignoring the creature for now. His curiosity was stronger than caution. Each step deeper into the facility revealed more strange machines, more tanks, more creatures. Some were beautiful, glowing with colors he had never seen. Others were unsettling. Limbs too long, eyes too sharp, movements too precise. Yet he pressed forward. Confidence carried him. He had entered the facility expecting challenge, and he found it, but he also found fascination. Human ingenuity had taught him to explore, to adapt, to survive, and he trusted himself. As he reached a junction in the hall, the human paused. The sound of a door sliding open echoed in the distance. Crouched, peering around the corner. A small group of alien researchers entered, moving quickly. They spoke in a language he did not understand, their voices sharp and clipped. He smiled faintly. "Not my problem," he whispered, slipping into the shadows. His small form moved silently, unseen. Human adaptability was at its best, here blending into alien environments. Reading situations, anticipating threats, he watched the aliens move away, then exhaled slowly. This facility was more active than he had imagined, more dangerous. Yet the thrill only increased his confidence. Each corner, each tank, each hum of machinery was a challenge, waiting to be understood. The human moved forward again, deeper into the heart of the facility. The further he went, the more he noticed patterns. The creatures weren't just for study, they were experiments. Some were enhanced, engineered, or even trained. The technology surrounding them hinted at intelligence far beyond the local species, and still, he pressed forward, unaware that one particular tank, deeper in the facility, was observing him closely. Not just with reflex or instinct, but with intelligence, calculating, waiting, understanding. The human paused before a large metal door at the end of the hall. A faint vibration ran through the floor, almost like a heartbeat. He smiled confidently, pressing his hand to the control panel. "Time to see the big one," he whispered. The door hissed and began to slide open. A cold draft escaped, carrying the scent of metal and something else, something alive. The human stepped inside, unaware that his confidence was about to be tested in ways he could not imagine. And deep within the shadows, the creature he had glimpsed earlier shifted, multiple eyes tracking his every move. Its form blurred, its mind alert. It waited for the first time. The human felt a tiny ripple of unease, but he dismissed it. "It's fine," he whispered. "Just another pet." But deep down, a small voice warned him that this facility held far more than he had expected, and that the pet he thought harmless might not be a pet at all. The corridor stretched before him, dark and silent. Faint lights pulsed along the walls, casting long shadows that shifted as he moved. The human steps were deliberate, measured. Every instinct told him to be careful, yet curiosity pushed him forward. The deeper he went, the stranger the facility became. Strange tubes ran along the walls, filled with glowing liquids, some empty, some holding shapes that twisted slowly. The hum of machinery vibrated in the floor, low and almost alive. He paused at the intersection of two hallways. The path to the left seemed to lead to storage or maintenance rooms. The path to the right glowed faintly, the lights more intense, pulsing in rhythm with the energy he could feel. He chose the right path. Drawn by instinct and curiosity, the hallway opened into another vast chamber, larger than the one he had left. Tanks floated in neat rows, each filled with creatures of all shapes and sizes. Some were delicate, small enough to hold in one hand. Others were massive, twisting and coiling in their liquids like living serpents. But what caught the human's attention was the largest tank, placed in the very center. It was bigger than any tank he had seen before, reinforced with multiple layers of alien energy barriers. Inside, a creature moved slowly, its body twisting and stretching with a grace that seemed impossible. Its limbs were long, too long, and each ended with sharp, claw-like appendages. Its skin shimmered, reflecting the dim light in a way that made it almost invisible at times. But its eyes, multiple, glowing eyes, stared directly at him. The human crouched slowly, trying to study it without making sudden movements. His scanner beeped erratically. The life readings were unusual, unstable, almost like the creature was changing faster than the device could track. "Not a pet," he whispered to himself, the words leaving his mouth before he could stop them. The creature shifted suddenly, pressing against the energy barrier with strength that made the panel shiver. Its eyes followed him with calculated awareness. It did not move randomly. It did not act on instinct alone. Every motion was precise, measured, and deliberate. The human's heart beat faster. He had faced dangerous creatures before, yes. He had survived storms and predators on worlds that no one would dare visit. But this was different. Intelligence. Pure, focused intelligence. Something designed, perhaps, to test intruders. Or maybe it was meant for something darker, something he could not yet imagine. He stepped back slowly, keeping his scanner pointed at the creature. The readings were impossible to fully interpret. Its energy signature fluctuated wildly, almost as if it was aware of him, predicting his thoughts. "This is extraordinary," he whispered, awe creeping into his voice. Not just a predator. A thinker. A problem solver.
Ow!
The creature moved again, faster this time. It struck the energy barrier lightly, but the force was enough to make the human flinch. Its limbs flexed in ways that seemed unnatural, yet controlled. Every movement radiated intelligence. He turned to move away, scanning the surrounding tanks. The smaller creatures were safe, for now docile and unaware. But the center creature had noticed him. It had registered his presence and analyzed him. And now it was waiting for him to make the next move. The human paused at the edge of the room, weighing his options. Retreat would be smart, but he could not ignore the opportunity to study it. His curiosity, his human instinct to understand and adapt, was stronger than caution. He moved closer, carefully, keeping the scanner between him and the creature. "All right," he whispered, voice barely audible. "Let's see what you're really capable of." He crouched closer to the glass, observing the creature's eyes. Each one seemed to study him individually, tracking him in perfect synchronization. It moved slowly, deliberately circling the interior of its tank, as if measuring him. He noted the muscle tension, the way it reacted to the vibrations of his movements. Every detail, every micro-movement was calculated. The human adjusted his device, trying to get a stable reading. But the energy signature remained erratic. It flickered, pulsed, and even seemed to watch the scanner itself. The human frowned. He had never seen technology behave like this, not even on the most advanced human worlds. He took another step back. Suddenly aware of the faint vibrations under his boots, they were subtle, but they were there almost like a heartbeat. He glanced around the room. The lights pulsed in rhythm with the vibrations. The hum of machinery deepened, resonating with the creature's movements. A chill ran down his spine. This facility, the creatures, the energy fields, they were connected. Everything here was alive in some way. Not alive like humans or animals, but aware, calculating, watching. The human shook his head. He needed to stay focused. Observation first, reaction second. He stepped closer to one of the smaller tanks nearby, a simple creature with soft wings and large eyes. It floated lazily, unaware of the tension building in the room. The human reached out, brushing his gloved finger against the glass. It twitched slightly, but remained docile. Relief washed over him, but only briefly. The large creature in the center had stopped moving. Its limbs were still, but its eyes followed him, unblinking, intelligent, patient. He could feel it studying him, measuring him, and for the first time he realized this was not just an experiment. This was a predator engineered to think, to anticipate, to adapt. The human's pulse quickened. He had underestimated it. His confidence, so steady when he entered, began to waver. He had assumed this facility was a collection of harmless pets. He had assumed intelligence would be limited. But he had been wrong. He stepped back further, scanning the room quickly. Tanks, machines, energy fields. Every detail, it was all part of a system designed to challenge intruders, perhaps to test their abilities, perhaps to kill them. And the creature in the center was the apex of that system. A sudden sound made him freeze. A clicking, almost imperceptible, echoed from deeper in the chamber. The human's eyes darted to the shadows. Nothing moved. But the sound came again, closer, faster. He realized with a start that it was the large creature. It had moved against the energy barrier so subtly that he hadn't noticed. Now it was positioning itself, testing the limits, observing his reactions. The human swallowed hard, forcing calm. He could still handle this. He had tools, gadgets, skills that no local species could match. But the instinctive fear creeping into him was new, and it was sharp. This was not a simple pet. This was intelligence beyond what he had faced before. He crouched, studying the creature's eyes, trying to understand its mind. And then, almost simultaneously, he saw the tiniest movement, a subtle twitch in one of its limbs, a test, a warning. He realized it had anticipated him reaching for his scanner. It had watched, calculated, and reacted. "Not a pet," he whispered again, louder this time. The words carried weight now. Fear mixed with awe. He had walked into this facility expecting curiosity, but he was leaving with something else entirely, the knowledge that he had underestimated what he faced. He moved backward slowly, scanning the room for an exit. His eyes flicked to a doorway at the far end. Beyond it, he could see a faint glow of another chamber, perhaps a way forward. Perhaps a way deeper into danger. The creature shifted again, pressing against the energy barrier. It was testing, learning, measuring him. The human felt his heartbeat in his throat. He had never faced anything quite like this. His confidence, so steady when he entered, had fractured yet. Despite the fear, the human felt a surge of determination. He had survived countless dangers before. He had faced predators far larger and more aggressive than anything here. His curiosity, his ingenuity, his human adaptability, they were his greatest weapons. He took a deep breath, steeling himself. Observation first. Reaction second. That was the rule he lived by. And for the first time, he understood the real challenge of this facility. Not just the creatures, but the intelligence behind them. The human moved cautiously toward the exit, never turning his back on the central tank. Every step was deliberate, measured. The large creature followed him with its eyes, silent, patient, waiting for him to make a mistake. He reached the doorway and peered into the next chamber. Lights flickered along the walls. Shadows moved in strange patterns. He could hear faint hums and clicks echoing in the distance. A shiver ran down his spine. He had entered the facility with confidence. He had expected curiosity, exploration, maybe even excitement, but now, standing at the threshold of the next chamber, he realized the truth. What he faced here was not a pet. It was something far more dangerous. Something alive, intelligent, and aware of him in ways he could not yet understand. He whispered under his breath, barely audible even to himself, that wasn't a pet. With that realization, he stepped forward, deeper into the unknown. The human stepped cautiously into the next chamber, every sense alert. The room was vast, taller and wider than any he had seen so far. Pipes and tubes ran along the walls and ceiling, pulsing with a faint glowing light. Energy fields shimmered faintly above the floor, forming invisible barriers that flickered with each step he took. The hum of machinery was louder here, almost vibrating through the soles of his boots. His scanner beeped wildly. Energy signatures fluctuated erratically. Some of the smaller creatures floated lazily in tanks, unaware of him. But his attention was drawn immediately to the center of the room, where the largest tank loomed. The creature inside was no longer just observing. Its limbs pressed against the reinforced glass, stretching and twisting with impossible speed and strength. Its glowing eyes followed him, calculating. Predicting the human froze for a moment, realizing the truth he had been avoiding. This was not a pet. This was a predator, intelligent and aware of him in ways he could barely comprehend. He could feel the creature's focus, sharp and deliberate, like it could almost anticipate his every move. Stay calm. Observation first. Reaction second, he whispered to himself. He moved carefully along the edge of the room, keeping the tank between himself and the exit. But as he did, the creature lunged against the glass. The reinforced energy barriers pulsed and vibrated under the force. Something inside him snapped. He realized that the facility had underestimated him. But he had underestimated the creature as well. Suddenly, alarms echoed through the chamber. Red lights pulsed violently, and the hum of machinery spiked in intensity. The smaller creatures stirred, sensing the tension. The human's heart raced, but he forced himself to think. Retreat was now necessary. He needed to survive, observe, and escape. He moved quickly, scanning the floor for energy barriers. His scanner beeped, warning him of shifting fields ahead. A sudden blue glow appeared beneath his feet as a barrier activated. He jumped back, heart pounding. The creature pressed harder against its tank, and he realized that the moment he delayed, the predator's reach could extend farther than he expected. He ducked behind a large container, catching his breath. He adjusted his backpack and activated a small device. A holographic map projected in front of him, showing the layout of the chamber and potential exit routes. The human analyzed it quickly. One path led deeper into the facility. Another led toward what looked like a maintenance corridor. That was his best option. He sprinted toward the corridor, scanning constantly. The large creature reacted instantly. The energy barrier of its tank flared, and with a sharp crack, the glass began to ripple. The human froze, realizing that containment might not hold for long. The creature's intelligence was not limited to observation; it could manipulate, test, and perhaps even escape. He forced himself to move. Sprinting along the side of the room, he ducked under pulsing energy fields, leapt over broken machinery, and used his gadgets to disable some of the smaller traps. The predator's gaze followed him, multiple eyes glowing with awareness. Its limbs moved impossibly fast within the tank, striking the energy barriers in controlled bursts. Each strike sent vibrations through the floor. The human reached the corridor, panting but focused. It was narrower than the main chamber, but safer, at least for now. He scanned the walls. Strange panels blinked and pulsed, some showing alien symbols he did not understand. He tapped a few with his device, causing them to flicker and temporarily shut down. His knowledge of engineering allowed him to exploit weaknesses that even the alien designers had not anticipated. But as he moved further, he heard a low, clicking sound behind him. The predator had found a way to extend its reach. He glanced back through the faint red light of the chamber. The energy barrier around its tank had weakened, cracks forming in the glowing surface. A long limb shot out, thin and flexible, striking the air near him with precision. The human dove forward, narrowly avoiding contact. He ran faster, adrenaline pushing him beyond exhaustion. The corridor twisted and turned, forcing him to navigate a maze of pipes, doors, and energy traps. His scanner beeped incessantly, warning of movement ahead. The predator had not left the room it was tracking him, calculating, possibly planning the next strike. The human paused briefly, taking in his surroundings. A maintenance ladder led to a small service hatch in the ceiling. Without thinking, he jumped and grabbed the ladder, climbing quickly. His heart pounded. From above, he could see the tank in the chamber below. The predator's eyes glowed, multiple points of awareness, focusing entirely on him. It did not move yet, but its limbs flexed with controlled menace. He reached the hatch and pulled himself inside the service tunnel. The space was tight, metallic, and dimly lit. Pipes ran along the walls, humming with energy. He could hear the faint sounds of the predator below, the vibrations of its limbs striking the energy barrier. The human exhaled, relief washing over him. For now, he was safe. He moved carefully through the tunnel, using his scanner to avoid pressure plates and hidden traps. The facility was designed to test intruders, and it had been doing its job well. But human adaptability, cleverness, and intuition gave him an edge. He navigated with care, knowing that one mistake could be fatal. After several minutes, he reached a junction. 2 tunnels extended before him. One led deeper into the facility, possibly toward more chambers with unknown creatures. The other descended toward what his scanner indicated was the outer perimeter. His instincts screamed at him. Escape. Knowledge could wait. Survival was priority. He chose the path toward the outer perimeter. The tunnel descended gradually, and he could feel a slight breeze, carrying hints of the outside world. He increased his pace, using his gadgets to temporarily disable security systems along the way. The sound of the predator below was faint now, but he knew it had not given up. Its intelligence would adapt, just as he adapted to it. Finally, he reached a hatch leading to the surface. He paused, catching his breath. The stars shone above, cold and distant. 2 moons illuminated the barren landscape, and he could see the faint outline of the facility behind him. He had made it this far, but he knew the creature in the center tank was still there, where, patient and calculating. He climbed out and landed on the rocky surface. His boots sank slightly into the alien soil, and he exhaled deeply. He had survived narrowly, but he could not ignore the lessons of the chamber. Intelligence, adaptability, and patience could make a predator far more dangerous than raw strength. He glanced back at the facility. The hum of machinery and flickering lights reminded him that the predator was still contained for now. But he knew, deep down, that containment was temporary. The creature had observed him, calculated his movements, and perhaps learned from him. The human shivered, but not entirely from fear. Part of him marveled at the creature's intelligence. Another part cursed his own overconfidence. He had entered the facility expecting curiosity, exploration, and maybe even excitement. Instead, he had faced something far more dangerous, a predator that thought, analyzed, and anticipated. The human crouched on the rocky ground, catching his breath. He examined the equipment on his belt, adjusting and checking each tool. Knowledge was important, yes. But survival required more than just understanding it, required action, timing, and adaptability. And humans, he thought, were unmatched in those qualities. A distant rumble echoed from the facility. He frowned. The predator, or perhaps the facility itself, was reacting to his escape. He needed to move. Carefully, he made his way across the barren ground. Keeping the facility in sight but putting as much distance as possible between him and the central tank, he paused at a ridge, looking down at the alien landscape. Strange plants glowed faintly, their colors shifting in the night. The wind carried a faint metallic scent. Somewhere deep in the facility, the predator waited, patient, aware, and intelligent. He whispered under his breath, "That wasn't a pet." He continued moving, each step cautious, aware that survival depended on speed and intelligence. Humans were adaptable, clever, and resilient. But he had learned a harsh lesson tonight. Some intelligence, alien and engineered, could challenge even the most confident human. Yet despite the fear, despite the danger, the human felt a surge of determination. He had survived. He had observed, and he would continue to survive. For now he moved across the barren planet, the alien facility glowing faintly behind him. The predator remained inside, waiting, learning, and watching. But the human had his own advantage: ingenuity, adaptability, and the unyielding human instinct to endure, explore, and overcome. And somewhere in the distance, a faint glimmer of hope appeared. A way forward. A path to safety. The escape was not over, but the human had survived the first true test. And he knew that, no matter what came next, humans would never back down. The human crested the ridge and paused, looking back at the alien facility. It glowed faintly under the light of the two moons, its dark walls pulsing with energy. For a moment, he allowed himself to breathe. He had survived. He had escaped the chamber, the predator, and the traps. Yet, he could not shake the feeling that the facility itself was alive. Watching him, anticipating his next move, he adjusted his backpack and moved cautiously across the rocky terrain. Each step was deliberate, calculated. He kept his scanner active, but its readings were now chaotic. The predator's energy signature remained strong, but the device could not measure intelligence or cunning. That was something he would have to assess himself. Humans adapt, he whispered under his breath. We survive. We learn, and we outthink. The words felt true even in the eerie quiet of the alien planet. His mind raced, replaying the events inside the laboratory. The tanks, the creatures, and especially the predator in the central tanket had been unlike anything he had faced. Not instinctive aggression, not simple hunting behaviors. Intelligence, awareness, calculation. He realized for the first time how dangerous it had been. One wrong move could have triggered an energy barrier failure, releasing the predator. One mistake could have ended his life, but he had survived. His skills, his ingenuity, his calm under pressure, they had made the difference. And now he had an important understanding. The predator had learned from him too. It had observed his movements, measured his reactions, and now knew how a human thinks. That thought sent a shiver down his spine. The human moved toward a cluster of rocks that could provide cover. Just in case the facility decided to react, he crouched behind one and scanned the area. Strange plants glowed softly, shadows stretching across the landscape. The wind carried a faint metallic scent, and somewhere in the distance, faint vibrations hinted that the facility's energy systems were active, even from this distance. He exhaled slowly. That wasn't a pet, he whispered again. The words carried weight now, heavy with understanding. The creatures in the facility were not ordinary. Some might be harmless, but others, especially the central predator, were engineered for intelligence, adaptability, and danger. He pressed a small button on his scanner, activating a map overlay. The facility's layout became visible, highlighting exits, corridors, and energy nodes. He studied it carefully, noting the safest path to leave the planet entirely. Observation first. Calculation second. Action last. That had been the lesson of the laboratory. He would not forget it. The human began moving again, staying low, keeping cover from the faint light of the moons. His heart beat steadily now, no longer racing with fear, but alert and focused. He knew the predator was still inside, aware, calculating, patient. But he also knew something important. Humans think differently. Humans adapt in ways that creatures, even intelligent ones, cannot always predict. He paused at a ridge overlooking a valley. The facility's main compound sprawled below, its energy barriers flickering as if alive. He could see the outlines of some tanks through the walls, creatures floating, moving, but none as threatening as the central predator. And he knew one thing for certain. The predator had not left the lab. It had remained inside, constrained for now, but learning, observing. The human adjusted his backpack, checking the tools and gadgets he carried. His mind raced through contingencies. If the predator or the facility tried to react, he had to be ready. He was far from helpless, but he could not afford overconfidence again. One misstep and everything could change. He began his descent carefully, moving through the alien landscape with quiet precision. Each step was measured, avoiding loose rocks and areas that might trigger alarms. His human senses, honed through countless missions, guided him. He felt the subtle vibrations in the ground, the changes in air currents, and the faint hums of energy fields in the distance. As he moved, he reflected on what he had learned. The facility was more than just a laboratory. It was a test. Some of the creatures were likely harmless, used for study. Others, like the central predator, were designed to test intelligence, adaptability, and reaction under pressure. And it had succeeded in doing exactly that. The human shook his head, a small smile on his face. He had entered with confidence, believing it would be a simple exploration. He had underestimated both the creatures and the intelligence behind them. Yet he had survived. That was human ingenuity at its finest. Learn, survive. He paused again, noticing movement in the shadows ahead. Small creatures emerged from the rocks, glowing faintly. They moved cautiously, observing him. He froze, but they did not advance aggressively. It was clear now. Not every creature here was a threat. Some were curious, aware, but not predatory. The humans studied them briefly, noting patterns of movement before moving on. The facility's outer perimeter came into view. Energy barriers formed walls of light around the compound, pulsing rhythmically. The human crouched behind a rock, analyzing the patterns. Timing would be crucial. He needed to avoid detection while moving toward the shuttle he had left hidden earlier. He waited for the perfect moment. The barriers shifted, energy pulses oscillating. He darted forward, moving quickly but silently. His boots barely touched the ground as he navigated around the lights and sensors. The human's heart beat steadily now, each movement calculated, precise. Suddenly, a ripple in the air caught his attention. A faint shimmer, almost invisible, indicated a scanning pulse from the facility. He froze, holding his breath. The predator inside the lab could not reach him here, but the facility itself was aware. Systems were adaptive. He had to move carefully. He darted to the next cover point, a large boulder just ahead of the outer barrier. The scanning pulse passed harmlessly over him. He exhaled slowly, moving again. The shuttle was visible now, small and unassuming, blending with the rocky terrain. Relief washed over him, but he remained vigilant. He reached the shuttle and activated the controls. The engines hummed softly. As he climbed in, he could see the facility in the distance, lights flickering as if aware of his presence. The central predator remained inside, still confined, still observing. But the human had gained a crucial advantage: distance, knowledge, and adaptability. He took off, rising into the night sky. The moons glowed faintly, and the barren landscape receded below him. The human allowed himself a brief moment to reflect. He had entered the facility with confidence, believing it would be simple. He had faced creatures of intelligence, adaptability, and danger. And he had survived. But the lesson was clear. Confidence without caution could be deadly. Observation, analysis, and adaptation were key. And humans, he realized, were exceptional at those skills. He whispered again, almost to himself. A reminder he would never forget that wasn't a pet. The shuttle rose higher, leaving the facility and its dangers behind. The human watched the alien world fade into the distance, lights of the facility flickering like distant stars. The predator remained inside, constrained for now, but aware, intelligent, and patient. He exhaled a mixture of relief, awe, and respect washing over him. Humans had survived. Humans had adapted. And humans would continue to explore, confront danger, and endure where others might fail. As the shuttle jumped into hyperspace, leaving the alien planet behind, the human reflected on what he had learned. The universe was full of wonders and dangers, and intelligence, in any form, could be deadly. But human adaptability, ingenuity, and courage were unmatched. He had faced a predator that thought, calculated, learned him he had survived, and somewhere deep in the facility, the predator continued to watch, waiting for the next intruder. But the human knew one thing for certain. He had left a mark. The predator had learned from him, just as he had learned from it. The encounter would not be forgotten by either side. The human leaned back in the shuttle, breathing slowly. Confidence had been tempered by caution, curiosity sharpened by danger, and intelligence tested by something beyond expectation. He had entered the facility believing it would be a challenge. He had left knowing the truth. Some creatures were not pets. Some intelligence was beyond comprehension. But humans. Humans would adapt. Humans would survive. Humans would learn. And with that, he set his sights on the next adventure, ready to face whatever the universe could throw at him. The door slid open with a hiss, revealing a chamber unlike any the human had seen before. The room was enormous, stretching far into the shadows, with high ceilings lined with tubes and machinery that hummed softly. Strange lights pulsed along the walls, casting shifting patterns across the floor. The air smelled metallic, sharp, and faintly sweet. Like a mixture of chemicals and living things, the human stepped inside carefully. His eyes darted around, scanning every detail. Tanks of varying sizes lined the room. Some were small, no larger than a human chest, filled with creatures that floated lazily in colored liquids. Others were massive, stretching from floor to ceiling, housing creatures that twisted and turned, their limbs moving in ways that seemed almost unnatural. He crouched by one of the smaller tanks. Inside, a creature hovered near the surface, its translucent skin glowing softly. Its many eyes blinked independently, tracking his every movement. The human smiled, holding up his device. "Just a pet," he whispered, feeling reassured. He touched the glass gently. The creature twitched but did not move aggressively. He moved along the row, scanning each tank carefully. Most of the creatures were small, docile, and clearly studied. Some had delicate wings. Others had long tendrils that floated around them like ribbons. He noted each one, recording observations in his device. The human's confidence grew with every step. "This is fascinating," he muttered. "Their science is advanced, but not beyond my understanding. I can handle this." But as he reached the far corner of the room, he noticed something different. A series of tanks had extra layers of security, energy fields, reinforced glass, and alien glyphs glowing faintly along the edges. The creatures inside were larger, more complex, and far less predictable. The human approached cautiously, scanning the energy patterns with his device. They pulsed in unusual rhythms, not like the others. One tank contained a creature with long, spindly limbs that seemed too flexible to be natural. Its eyes were sharp and bright, following him even when he turned away. He crouched, studying the tank closely. "Still fine," he whispered. "Just unusual." As he leaned closer, a faint movement caught his attention. The creature inside the tank shifted rapidly, almost too fast to see. Its eyes locked onto him, intelligent and calculating. The human's pulse quickened, but he forced himself to remain calm. "Stay calm. Observe," he murmured. He tapped his device. The scanner beeped rapidly, struggling to interpret the energy signatures. This was unlike any life form he had encountered before. The human took a careful step back. He had faced dangers before: predators, storms, hostile worlds, but this felt different. This was intelligence designed to test him, to study him, to understand him. He moved to the next tank. Inside was a creature he had seen in brief glimpses from the hallway. Its body was long and thin, covered in scales that shimmered like liquid metal. Its multiple eyes reflected the light in eerie patterns. It tilted its head as he approached, and the human felt a chill run down his spine. He forced a smile. "Just a pet," he whispered again. "Nothing more. D." The creature moved suddenly, its body pressing against the glass as if testing its boundaries. The human stepped back, heart racing. His scanner beeped wildly, unable to stabilize readings. Something about this creature was off. It was too aware, too alert, too intelligent. He crouched, studying the creature carefully. Its movements were precise, deliberate. Unlike the other animals, it did not drift or float. It calculated. It waited. And when it blinked, he felt as if it were looking inside his mind. The human shook his head, trying to clear the sudden unease. He had encountered intelligent predators before. He had faced dangers far worse than a few alien creatures. He could handle this. He moved deeper into the laboratory. The room was vast, and the further he went, the stranger it became. Machines hummed with a low, resonant tone, and energy fields twisted across the floor like invisible rivers. Some tanks were empty, but still pulsed with energy, as if something had been there moments before. He crouched by one of these empty tanks. The air shimmered slightly, and his device detected faint traces of movement. "Interesting," he muttered. "Perhaps they are developing new creatures here." A sudden sound echoed through the chamber, a soft clicking noise like claws on metal. The human froze. He glanced around but saw nothing. The sound came again, closer this time. His pulse quickened. "All right," he whispered. "Time to stay alert." He moved slowly, scanning the room. Then he noticed a subtle shift in one of the larger tanks. A creature that had been still now seemed to move with purpose. Its limbs flexed, its eyes glinting. It pressed against the glass. The human realized with a start that it had been watching him the whole time. He stepped back, heart racing. But fascination kept him rooted in place. He raised his scanner, trying to understand the readings. The creature's energy signature was erratic, unpredictable. It's almost like it was thinking faster than the device could track. "This is remarkable," he whispered, breath shallow. "Not a pet. Not even close." He forced himself to move forward again, studying the other tanks. Each contained creatures more exotic than the last. Some had multiple limbs, others had wings or tendrils that seemed semi-transparent. The human's mind raced, imagining what each could do. He noted their sizes, their movements, their intelligence. Despite the rising tension, he could not stop exploring. Curiosity was stronger than fear. Every new creature was a puzzle. He had always been good at solving puzzles. Then he came to a large tank in the center of the room. It was the largest he had seen yet, reinforced with thick energy barriers. Inside floated a creature so massive it seemed impossible. Its body twisted gracefully, long limbs moving like serpents. Its eyes glowed brightly, multiple points of intelligence watching him. The human crouched, holding his breath. This creature was unlike any of the others. Its intelligence was palpable. Its movements were deliberate, testing the boundaries of its tank. It did not drift like a pet. It observed, calculated, and waited. He leaned closer, ignoring the chill in his spine. "Fascinating," he whispered. "Absolutely fascinating." Suddenly the creature lunged toward the glass, not violently, but with speed that made the human jump back. Its limbs struck the energy barrier with precision, and the human realized the tank was barely containing it. His pulse raced. "Okay, maybe not just a pet," he muttered. He scanned the energy barrier, noting the creature's strength and intelligence. This was engineered, no doubt about it. Designed to test, designed to observe, and it was clever. The human's mind raced. He had faced predators, yes, but this was different. This was not instinct alone. This was intelligence beyond what he had seen in alien creatures. His confidence wavered, but he forced himself to stay calm. Observation first. Reaction second. He moved away from the tank, taking careful steps. Every sense was alert. He noticed subtle movements in the shadows. Machines hummed with energy, and the air seemed alive with anticipation. He crouched beside another tank, smaller this time. Inside floated a creature with wings that shimmered like glass. Its eyes were large and soft, and it seemed harmless. He reached out carefully, placing a gloved hand near the glass. The creature moved slowly, almost lazily, but it observed him with awareness. The human smiled faintly. Relief washed over him. Not every creature was dangerous. but he could not shake the feeling that the large one in the center had been testing him. Waiting, learning, he stood, brushing off his knees. "Time to keep moving," he whispered. "I need to see what else is here." As he moved deeper into the chamber, the human felt a strange sense of being watched. Not by the creatures alone, but by the facility itself. Machines, lights, even the walls seemed aware of him. Every step he took, every movement he made was noted, and in the center of the lab the large creature continued to observe. Its eyes followed him, calculating, intelligent, and patient. It did not act yet. It waited. The human paused at the exit of the laboratory. He glanced back at the tanks one last time. Most of the creatures were harmless, yes, but one or maybe more was not. His confidence wavered slightly. He had come in expecting curiosity, but he was leaving with something else, the first real hint of danger. Subtle, but unmistakable. He exhaled slowly, shaking his head. "Still fine," he whispered. "Just unusual. Nothing I can't handle." Yet deep down, a small voice warned him. The creatures here were not ordinary. They were intelligent, precise, and unlike anything he had encountered. And somewhere in the shadows, the largest one continued to watch. The human stepped into the next corridor, unaware that his real challenge was only beginning.